Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope you're doing well. I don't know if you heard, but there are 4 new Armaf Club de Nuit fragrances. Kinda. Sorta. So they are Armaf Club de Nuit fragrances in a sense, but then they are also something completely different in a sense. I picked up all 4 of them, which when these were released at retail, I think were $175 each, which for an Armaf is just like, what? Can I have some of what you're smoking, please? Thank you. Armaf, known for their extremely high quality, expensive niche fragrances? No, I don't think that's right. But yeah, these were crazy expensive. They have thankfully shown up at discounters, which is where I got mine from fragrancebuy.ca, which by the way, linked in the description in case you want to check the fragrance out. And it is much more affordable from Fragrance Buy, but still for an Armaf, quite expensive. This one, $80. So as I said, I got all 4 in, but this is the first one that I opened, the first one that I wore, that I checked out. So that's the one we're talking about first. First. And it's this Armaf Club de Nuit Private Key to My Dreams. What is even going on here? Quick, shameless self-promotion. My 2 new fragrances, West Loop and Edgewater, are out finally. Edgewater, a great green fragrance, really fresh, lively with a big zingy blast off the top. Extremely wearable, people love it. And then West Loop is more sexy, warm, inviting, spicy. Has a really nice toasted cinnamon note off the top, vanilla in there, tobacco as it dries down. These 2 just came out. You can get them linked down below at Michael Malloy's website. If you use the code GENTSCENTS, you can get 30% off, which will make these under $100 each. Alternatively, if you'd rather, you can find them at Perfumania and fragrance outlet stores across the United States. So you can hop in there, spray them on, check them out, and if you like them, pick up a bottle. All right, back to the Armaf. So you will see this advertised some places as just Private Key, other places as Club de Nuit, but indeed it does have on the side of the box Club de Nuit, and on the bottle itself Club de Nuit. So I guess it's technically a Club de Nuit. It's right there, man. And guys, there's a lot to talk about here, a lot to break down with what's going on here and what may potentially be a little bit of a shift in what Armaf is doing. So let's first off start with the presentation. Take a look at that, then we can start diving into what's going on here and with the others in this new line, which I will cover in a future video. Trying to give them all a little bit more attention instead of trying to pack all 4 into one video and doing like a 2-minute review on each one or something. So here we have the box on the front, name of the fragrance, name of the house. And you can tell that this is a little bit of a higher end Armaf fragrance just by looking at the box. It is nicer than your typical Armaf fragrance. On one side, you can see that it is an extrait de parfum, 100 ml size. You have a sticker of authenticity. On the other side, it says Club de Nuit. Then on the back, you have Armaf, manufactured by Sterling Parfums. And on the bottom, your badge code, your ingredients, and your barcode. As a little pull tab up top that says Armaf, you pull on that, and this is where your bottle sits. Also comes with a little piece of paper here. Let's read it. Private key to my dreams, yielding a path to the door of thy greatest desire. An aroma so bold, millions it inspires. That's deep. So your bottle sits down in here, and then there's another little pull tab where if you needed to, you could pull that pull tab and it would pop the bottle out. So if for whatever reason this was in here and you couldn't get it out, which really it's not very hard to pop that bottle out, but you could pull this and then, ooh, look at that. So yeah, it's a much nicer presentation than normal with the box, and I think that carries over to the bottle as well. That was a weird noise. So here is the bottle. You've got a little key on the front. I like how they worked in the little crystal there, that faux diamond, just like on the cap of the Club de Nuit bottle. So kind of tied it in right there, really nice. Private key to my dreams, extrait de parfum on the bottom. Club de Nuit right there on the collar of the bottle. And then again on the back, Club de Nuit. On the bottom, you have a sticker and your badge code, which is printed in black ink on the black bottle, so pretty hard to see. And then the cap has Armaf up top and is magnetic. A nice touch. Let's go ahead and spray the atomizer out here. Share a few sprays. It's okay. Everything else is elevated. I would have liked to have seen maybe a pressurized atomizer or just a little higher end atomizer, especially considering that the retail on this is approaching $200, and even at discounters, still pretty expensive, but it's fine. I'm not angry, I swear. So here are the official notes for the fragrance. In the top, black pepper, pink pepper, and cardamom. In the mid, lavender, geranium, orange blossom, and apple. And in the base, vanilla, patchouli, cedar, and vetiver. And that is the official note breakdown from Armaf themselves. Now, I mentioned earlier that this is kind of a departure for what Armaf is known for, because we all know Armaf as a clone brand, right? Everything they do, by and large, is a clone of something else. And the Club de Nuit line is their most popular line of fragrances, their most well-known line of fragrances, mainly from Club de Nuit Intense Man, which is of course a clone of Creed's Aventus. So part of me wonders if that's not the reason they slapped Club de Nuit on here, because it has name recognition. You know, Private Key, what is that? Yeah, it's something new. Club de Nuit, I know what that is. So I would think that that's probably why it says Club de Nuit, Club de Nuit, Club de Nuit all over the box and bottle. Does this have anything to do truly with the Club de Nuit line? I don't really think so, other than that shared name. You know, box is different, presentation is different, and the idea is different. Like I just said, Armaf really well known for being a clone house, just a direct one-to-one clone house. But with these 4 new fragrances, the Private Key fragrances, Armaf has partnered up with other perfumers, including Quentin Bish, among others. So this is not like unknown people that you're like, oh, these are all just like newbies and you know, people just breaking into the industry. No, this is like real deal big name perfumers that they collaborated with on these fragrances. And I'm not gonna say this one does not have similarities to something else out there, which we'll get to in a second, but I think the entire idea behind this new line is Armaf doing original fragrances. I actually wanted a little more information on these, so I reached out to some of the stores that carry these fragrances. And I said, can you give me more info? Like, what did Armaf say? Did they say, you know, this is a clone of that and an inspiration of that, whatever? Because most of the time with these brands, when they make these sales, when they're pitching these fragrances to stores to carry them, they'll say, this inspired by that, this inspired by that, this inspired by that. But with this one, it was like, no, we're doing our own thing here. So these aren't necessarily made to be direct clones of anything, which makes sense because at the end of the day, when you're approaching perfumers like the ones that are working on these fragrances, you're probably not gonna get super far by saying, hey, so we wanna put your name on this. We just want you to clone that fragrance, just clone it, and then we're just gonna put your name on it to sell it. You know, it's not super appealing. But now if they come to them and they say, hey, we're this super well-known clone house, but look, we've got money to throw around and we wanna start doing some of our own stuff. Would you be on board with that? By the way, here's some money. Then that's much more appealing. So yeah, the word that has been passed on to me is that these 4 new fragrances are essentially Armaf trying to do their own thing instead of directly copying something else. Now, like I said, are you still gonna find some similarities with some of these fragrances to some other stuff out there? Yeah, but at the same time, that happens with releases all the time. So all that out of the way, how does this one smell? It actually does smell really nice, extremely pleasant. You get that warm sweetness from the cardamom off the top pretty much right away. The lavender, you pick that up as well. Apple, the pepper, that's in there. Vanilla, all of that comes through quite clearly. Warm, sweet, spicy, sexy, really, really nice smelling. It smells good quality as well. So at least for the price point, it doesn't smell cheap. When you spray this on, it doesn't have anything off-putting. It's blended well, it's done well. You can tell that this was not something that was done on the budget of a typical Armaf. Now, I have heard this one be compared to a couple different fragrances, Parfums de Marly Layton, 1 Million Elixir, and I gotta say, it's really not a direct clone of either of those to me. You can pick up bits and pieces of like that Layton-esque kind of vibe to it. You know, the apple, the lavender, the cardamom. So if you really key in on that specifically, then it could remind you a bit of Layton. But then the way the vanilla is done in here is more reminiscent of 1 Million Elixir. That being said, if you spray this on side by side with either of those, it's not really a good clone of either. It'd be one of those deals where you're like, oh, it's, you know, it's kind of like 50% there, but it's not really there. It also reminds me a bit of fragrances like Le Beau Le Parfum or Invictus Victory Elixir to an extent. You know, it's kind of in that wheelhouse, which again, those fragrances have been compared to the smell of 1 Million Elixir. So it's one of those deals where it falls in with those fragrances, but it's not necessarily exactly the same as any of them, but it's in that wheelhouse. When compared directly to 1 Million Elixir, this has far more of that spiciness coming across, whereas 1 Million Elixir is concentrating more on like a higher tinged kind of vanilla than this one, and then has the rose in there as well, which you don't pick up here at all. This one also has a lot more heft to it, you know, more body to it as it dries down. And I just want to be clear here as well that I think this is one of those deals where, you know, depending on what you key in on most, it could remind you of different things, as I said before. And that's probably because it's, again, not directly being any of them. Best way to describe it is, it's almost like when Invictus Victory came out. Invictus Victory Elixir, Le Beau Le Parfum, Jean Paul Gaultier Scandal, The Most Wanted Parfum. Like, all these fragrances have similarities, but if you wear them side by side, you don't go, oh, it's the exact same. You say, oh, okay, I can tell. This is this. But when you smell them in a vacuum, they do smell quite similar. This is kind of like that. I mean, heck, you could maybe even think of it as like a meeting of those, like mashing up those fragrances, and then this pops out. I do think it smells great. I think that it's really wearable in fall and winter. It has good performance, which you would expect because it's pricey and it's an extrait to parfum. So there's a lot to love about it, but the part that's difficult and going to be extremely difficult is first off the price. It's an Armaf. 175 is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it's one of those things where you have to know your brand to an extent, right? Armaf has been Armaf for years and years and years. You can't suddenly be like, yeah, we make a ton of $20, $30, and $40 clone fragrances, but now we're an almost $200 niche fragrance company. People are gonna be like, I don't know about that, man. I think I'll stick with my Nishana and stuff. Thanks though. You can't suddenly go from this to that and have it be super smooth as far as people wanting it. And while I think it's good to partner up with more well-known perfumers when you're trying to come out with like your own line, I guess, it's just having people accept Armaf as a brand that's making their own stuff is also going to be difficult. And here is why. Every single Armaf fragrance that is released, people do not approach it as this is its own thing. The mindset is always the same, which is, what is this a clone of? And it gets to the point where you could have something that's completely unique and original and people are gonna be like, no, it's a clone of something. I gotta find out what it is. I know it's a clone. I know it is because it's Armaf. So it's not gonna be easy to shake that. And then, you know, it's gonna get confusing for people because, you know, are people gonna think, is this a clone fragrance release if it's a new one, or is this something where they're trying to make their own in-house thing, like a unique thing? So there's overlap. And then especially, you come out with something like this, which Armaf themselves are saying, we're trying to do our own thing, but then it smells similar to other things out there, but not like ultra close, but kind of close. And then it just creates confusion because people are like, again, I know it's a clone and it does smell like something I've smelled before. I can't quite put my finger on it. I think it's closest to this, so it's a clone of that. It's gotta be because it smells pretty close, so it's gotta be a clone of that. So yeah, it creates just a cluster. And this one is gonna be a cluster. As more people smell it, you're gonna have some people say, yes, it's Layton. Other people, yes, 1 Million Elixir. Other people, no, it's Le Beau Le Parfum mixed with, you know, this or that, or no, it's Invictus Victory Elixir mixed with this or that. That's what this is going to end up being. I feel like a lot of people are not going to take it just for what it is. And just to me, off of first blush, when I first smelled it, it did put me more in the mindset of like Victory Elixir mixed with Scandal or something like that. That was the first thing I thought of before I did any like looking up of the fragrance or, you know, Googling it or anything like that. So that was the first thing that hit my mind. And then some of the other stuff that I saw other people say, I was like, oh, well that makes sense too. So that would be my best advice to you with this one, is go into it not expecting it to be a true one-to-one clone. Because you put this up with Layton, it doesn't smell like Layton. You put it up with 1 Million Elixir side by side, it doesn't smell like 1 Million Elixir. You put it up side by side with the ones I just mentioned, it doesn't really smell like those either. This is in that style, but also kind of its own thing. The price point is gonna be what holds it back, I feel. If you could scoop this for like 40 bucks, 40, 50 bucks, fall and winter time, killer. Killer, because you get that extrait to parfum performance, quality is there, compliment factor is there, smells great, but it's gonna be a tough sell, I think, for a lot of people. So there we go, Armaf Private Key to My Dreams / Club de Nuit Private Key to My Dreams. Love the way it smells, completely in my style of things that I like. Absolutely fits in with everything that's coming out right now, so you can tell that Armaf with the perfumers was probably like, okay, hey, this style really popular right now. Give me something like that, but like with a twist. I feel like that's kind of how this went. So hey, don't copy that exactly, but do kind of give me something in that style, if you know what I'm saying. Kind of like what happened with Explorer, probably with Aventus, you know, hey, give me something kind of Aventus-y, but not exactly Aventus. Yeah, there we go. Armaf, blah, 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 Club de blah, blah, private blah, to my blah. If you smell this, let me know what you think about it. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, guys. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you later.